Okay, so welcome to day 3 overview. As we were talking about having the brand voice, as we mentioned. So hopefully you can see this, and I know that I will put this on slides, and I'm using this today just to kind of navigate a few points because I had some screen grabs. Yeah, so customizing our settings, which both of you will be able to do if you haven't already. I know that, Liam, you've started yours, which is great. So day 3, let's redefine our style based on your unique style, so your unique voice. So whether we're using it for our business management, when I say management, it's leadership, then we want to be able to kind of have that, and so therefore the model understands who we are. So personalizing the AI assistant's output responses. Now, so what we feed it is how we go about kind of giving it the information, and is going to determine the outputs. And so we're going to be testing this as we start customizing and working on our assistants. So let's see. So we'll do some interactive work in terms of like the responses, the AI assistant. Does it align with our style? So we're going to be testing that. And so as soon as you've created your assistant, we'll share it and we'll see, and we'll look at how that's working. And now when we're creating, now over to creating our assistant. Now I've jumped a little bit. Before we do this, we're going to be going through a couple of questions about our brand voice and what that might look like. But still, all the same, what we tend to do is in this space, and I'll go through it step by step. So I'll show it on the screen so you have this. But you have this almost like canvas where you create. So on the other day when I was doing this, I noticed as I was sharing my screen, we had us showing up, right? But on the right-hand side, you're going to get a drop down, and you'll see my GPTs, and so you click on create GPT, and what it will do is it will create this new GPTs, and basically what you then put into this, right? So you will then configure it, the terminologies, you configure that, you give it a name, depending on what you want to call it, and you give it a short description here. You'll also give it some instructions, and I'm going to give you a couple of examples of this. And how does this GPT or assistant, what does this assistant do? How does it behave? And what should it avoid doing? You saw a couple of examples, like when I said avoid giving me lengthy responses. So you can think about what you want it to not do, because I always find that's helpful too. And you might say, well, there's a lot of things, but actually, if you want it to be succinct, then say, well, avoid giving me all the kind of the explanations. But you may actually want the explanations before it moves on. Like, I like it to give me the reasoning, because then I know how it's thinking and the process it's going through. So I'll give you a couple of examples. Sometimes the conversation starters, this is optional. Don't necessarily need that, but you can have that as a conversational starter, as in like, let's go, or something that just prompts it. And there's the knowledge bit, which I'll show you the different files that you can upload. And there is something that we can do, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more tomorrow. We can upload and make our information or knowledge succinct by uploading something called markdown formatted document. And in fact, what we do is we get GPT to do that for us. So it's the kind of language that GPT understands, because one, it's succinct and it has all these like curly brackets, and I'll show you what that looks like. So I found that to be really powerful, because it will of course pick up text and it will do that. just as a kind of note. But what I found is when I put markdown formatted text, I found that I would I get a better kind of response, and then I've saved that document, upload it as a PDF into my knowledge base, and then when I evoke it in conversation, it's better. But I'll go through a couple of those steps. So essential steps you'll need to follow is to define the assistant's purpose and role. This is going to be absolutely paramount, because without that, we're kind of like going and, there's no clarity there. What's the objective? The main purpose of the assistant, such as providing business coaching, answering client inquiries or queries, or facilitating communication. Set clear goals, establish what you want the assistant to achieve, such as enhancing client engagement or providing tailored advice. So whatever that might be, then you're kind of prompting it and you're saying that. Design the client persona. So understand your ideal client. So once you know who you're speaking to and like the who that person is, and create a detailed profile of your ideal client. Define their pain points, their challenges, fears, frustrations that they may be facing, and determine a desirable outcome. So clarify, is it transformation your client seeks, such as career advancement, these are examples, or work-life balance. So having those dreams, desires, aspirations, and fears and frustrations, it really helps knowing, kind of like feeding the model, and it understands that. So what you want to do is to develop a knowledge base. And so when we began, I was saying to Colleen that you've already started this. When you were creating the website, when you were doing this, you've got some of that content, which we can organize it. We can ask ChatGPT, almost like we can prompt it and create a markdown text. And we can even take it another step in a different format, which I can show you as well. But that sits as our knowledge base. So when I say the information is content, it's structured, it's easily retrievable, and deliver relevant information quickly. So the markdown makes it easy to access. So we know that choose a communication channel. So we know that where your system will interact with clients. So will it be on social media? Will it be on email? Now, we won't do this here, but what we're able to do with having an assistant like this, we can use something called API keys, which then can communicate with with our website. But for the purpose of now, what we're doing is we're using it in this environment, and I find that's, I like to get started. That's good enough as we're working on this and really refining how we can use it. So that's kind of like what I would say. So yes, we might be creating it for social media contents, but there are ways of linking this to APIs are things that websites use for payments, that type of thing. But for now, we're going to stick to using it in this environment. So we create these templates, responses that align with brand voice. And so this is the bit that's kind of like what we've been talking about, getting that brand voice and honing that clearly. That means it's personalizing, it's tailored communication based on client personas and their specific needs. So that's kind of what we'll be doing. And there's some questions which I'll ask as well as we do this. So we'll be going into, and I'll ask you some questions as well. So when we're thinking about our ideal client, so Simbo, you said you're going to be creating social media posts, and who are they aimed at? I've got a so I kind of like did two documents, one for work, kind of your education setting, and then the other one more for business. So that was what I was asking myself as I was going through this today.
Sorry, was that question for me?
Yes, yeah. So when you're creating this the social media posts, do you have so who's this aimed at? Who's it kind of intended for?
Um, it is for I know because I only recently started out. So it's for potential clients, it's for those also just interested in what I have to offer, you know.
Okay.
It's very much up in the air, like I said, but hoping to learn from and just creating something um for potential clients mainly.
Okay. Yes, yeah. So it's creating content and putting content out there. And initially, I found is that we may not know who that person is. So we may be testing. So we might be at the
Hmm.
stage of testing and experimenting. I mean, most of what we're doing is testing, experimenting, but actually initial stages, we may like think, okay, who's this? Who's going to be looking at what I'm putting out there? And then from
Hmm.
that, we can build and start getting an idea of who those individuals are and then refining it that way. So that might be kind of the approach that you might take as you're going through this process of saying, okay, I'm going to be creating my assistant, and that assistant is going to do this, and again we can update it. So I'll go through a few of the steps in creating that, and what I'll do is I'll share the document which I was working on. I'll do a few questions, and it might be some of this stuff that you may have gone through, Colleen, already. And it might be kind of like, okay, I've done some of this, I kind of know, but it's good because you're like, okay, I know who my person is, I know who exactly, and it's been really kind of like, it's always at the forefront of our mind, right? I know who that person is, I can see them, I can kind of like, I know where they are, like instantly it makes it easier, and it makes it easier in terms of them wanting to kind of be with, like they're wanting your services, and it's like it's not salesy, it's basically it's like serving. I always say it's a service, right? And that's what makes it beautiful. So there are a couple of things we can do. We can do something like this, and now this, by the way, was created earlier on, taking very little time, thinking of brand voice discovery answer sheet using, guess what, GPT. And I went through this. I thought did a pretty good job. I was like, okay. And because a lot of this is going to be information out that talks about branding. And then I looked at how I then did mine, and then I prompted it basically to kind of align with what I was doing. So I did a couple of tweaks to that, but in the first version, it did a kind of pretty good job, I felt. So when we're thinking about brand identity, what's our unique voice? So look, I was asking about unique voice. It kind of says, okay, let's articulate a unique voice and capturing that in kind of, our brand, and, who kind of, this is kind of the big thing at the moment. I mean, because when people hear about us, what we're doing, the thing they do is go and look at social media posts because kind of that's what we said that we'd be doing. Core values of the brand, the beliefs that drive your business. Now, both of you will have those, and we'll be thinking kind of carefully about what that does, and what's the mission? What's the purpose? What's the purpose or goal of your brand? What do you want it to do? Kind of inspire. Is it that you want it's a mindset, you want to educate, inform, it might be a number of things. How do you want to be perceived by your audience? Describing, like if they saw um, you know, how would they say that kind of branding? What would that look like? How would you want to be described? So that really helps, because then once we have that information, we can use all this to feed into our assistant. Ideal client, where we can do this. And again, if it's still early, somebody you're still kind of looking at who the demographics, the psychographics and their needs, this will emerge as you start testing and putting that content out there. What kind of language? This is really interesting, like how they speak, the kind of audience. So is it formal? Sometimes we can be, you know, kind of coming from industry where it was a little bit formal. It's going to be different language when I'm marketing or speaking to my audience, right? So I may need to kind of think a little bit carefully about how that language, and am I writing to a level that they're able to understand. If it's kind of, you know, younger individuals looking at kind of being inspired through creativity, that type of thing. What are your audience main you know, pain points? And we talked a little bit about that already. In terms of their, you know, dreams, goals, aspirations, that type of thing is really helpful. Communication style, what tone do you want to convey in your communications? Should it be formal, casual, friendly, professional, serious, or playful? You know, things to think about. Because then once we have this, remember, we're training this model. It's not going to know until we feed it that information. How do you want the audience to feel when they interact with your brand? This is really interesting. That's something that I can certainly myself, and the more I think about it, I need to kind of add. So sometimes I miss things, and what I found is even prompting and asking, I've discovered a lot more that I may not have seen, and this is where I found the power in doing that. Sort of, yeah. So if I miss anything, please, you know, I'm not going to see your hand raised because I've just put this. So please do just stop me if I'm going too quickly. Communication challenges, you know, there might be complaints, negative feedback. Certainly if you're putting stuff on your website, this is what your assistant will do. May not be for now, but for later on. Differentiation, how do you compare to your competitors, others, in terms of products, services? And you could just create a system with your products, actually, that, you know, that you can go in and say, these are the products I'm doing. Because you may have a number of different products, packages that you might have, or examples of pieces of work. How do your competitors communicate? You know, that might be something, again, a bit of research that might be needed. What do you want to be known for? This is quite of a powerful question. And how will people remember your brand? You know, if you sort of cease to exist and say, how will they kind of speak about you? So content creation, this comes back to the social media posts. What type of content resonates? Now, we talked about social media posts. You said that that's what you'd be looking at. Later on, a lot of this can then be repurposed into other. I mean, if you decide to do one and then go into kind of creating podcasts, and this is where AI gets, there's so much we can do with that in terms of creating podcasts and newsletters from very, not spending too long on them, actually. Storytelling elements, that type of thing, and some of the call to action. So that might be something like, if you've got a creative piece and you may be asking them to comment on that creative piece, or it might be that type of thing. And this, of course, is adapt how your brand it will evolve, because that's what will happen as the market changes. And the communication is definitely about keeping consistency across different channels, even if we're going to be delivering it slightly different in terms of TikTok, different kind of audience, but still the way we may present content on that is going to be different to, say, Instagram or LinkedIn, and yeah, depending on which medium you choose. Reflective questions might be these type of things for your team if you've got other people that supporting, and so they know what your brand stands for. So we won't be doing this on our own. Ideally, we'll get other people as well. So I'm going to stop there because there's and it talks a little bit about employees, but those are some of the points to think about. And I could definitely share that because you can answer those and just upload that into the assistant, and then it will like have a lot of the information you have, or it's been kind of floating, but we can upload that if you haven't already. If you have it, great, because you may tweak it and add to that. Because that was something that I did when I created the brand biz at the brand voice, because I uploaded the information about who my ideal client was, where they hang out, that type of demographics, age group. I went through all that. And once you do it, it's like it's down on paper, and then you can like, okay, the the assistant kind of understands that that's who you're writing to, and it will write in that style without having to say, by the way, you remember this is my ideal client each time. It's like, oh, it's just so tiresome. And it's like, no, you need to know this information, so I don't need to feed you this all the time. Because if I have to train my intern every time, it would just be a waste of time, really. So I'm going to pause for a moment because you may have questions before I go into the settings, so we start working on this. What's coming up as I'm saying a lot of this stuff?
I guess I'm eager to fill that out and put it in and try it. I'm on a split screen right now, so I can see my thing, and I started at a very low level, but I'm excited.
Fantastic. Yes, yeah. It's brilliant because I've just found the power in that, because you're going to be doing social media posts, and you said that you hadn't been doing those. So now it's going to be like, I'm going to be doing social media posts, and I've got a system that's going to help me, and it's going to have my branding, and it's going to know who I am, and it's going to allow me to put stuff out there really quickly. And then of course you'll have those additional tweaks. And so we're going to test this out. So I'll share this with you. In fact, what I'll do is I'll put it in the chat, and then at least then you can start filling this out. And then I'll share it later on with you as well. But I think it's also good if you've got it, then you can say, look, I'm just going to continue. I'll just share, like I'll start filling this out already. Brand voice, I'm just thinking that's the worksheet. That's yeah, it's the discovery sheet. See, that's the one. And you don't have to fill all of it out. It's enough to kind of get started, at least, because at least we'll have something for the assistant. And then because that will become our knowledge base. Because it's like, yeah.
Whoops, sorry.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you had a few in there. Is there a way that you are generous enough to share? I think you had like brand voice, and then I don't know what the other two were yesterday.
Yeah.
But if you have any more to share, I think that would be valuable.
Yeah.
Also, I watched the first half of day one. I apologize, I didn't get to the full thing this morning with my kiddos, but it mentioned a workbook. I don't know if I missed that on day one. I did see the slides added on the email, but I'm not sure if there was a workbook I missed.
Yeah. So what I did was I had a handbook with worksheets, and as we were working through this, and I had it for 5 days. And when we were doing this, because we were together for an hour, I wasn't like, we didn't have time to kind of write into that, but I'd love some feedback if you felt that would be helpful, because there's a document with like every day where you like writing in, and I found those things quite helpful. So yeah, I'm happy to kind of share that if that would be of value as well. I'll amend it because it's got 5 days, and based on some feedback, because yeah, I'm learning as I'm doing this too. So we're testing this out. Yeah, I'm more than happy to kind of share that, because I sort of went in and put kind of content, and there's like activities in that workbook.
I'm a teacher, so I think I love all of those things. So yeah, anything you're willing to share, I think it does help me to go back in and process. So I feel like we're taking this in this space, but the work time later, I think it supports So thank you very much, Bailey.
Yeah, you're
I
more
do
than
enjoy the worksheets.
Yeah, so I'm going to share something, but when I share this, I just want to say that um, you're going to see this as in a document. Let me just double check that when this sheet comes up on here, you're going to wonder what this is, because um, um, but please don't be like oh my gosh, like what's she doing, right? So do you remember when I said we create this kind of like markdown text, right? And so I don't know if you can see this. So what I did was I actually got the GPT to do this. So I filled the form out and it created this kind of document. So when I share this, it's going to look like this. Now I'll see if I've got the original, but I will have that as well. So it kind of went through every bit of this voice tonality, and it kind of understands these curly braces, if you like, these, you know, like these different kind of way the layout. So it looks a little bit like, okay, what is that? It just because it helps the assistant to understand. And I didn't do it on my own. I just got GPT to do it. That was the magic in it, because I'm not going to spam. Like, I just go, right, I've got this. Now, like, you've got my document. Create this into a markdown formatted. And that's what I asked it to do. Because once I inputted that information, like, so if you have that, because what it does, it makes it easier to retrieve, but you don't need to. I found it to work without doing it. As I've been doing my training more, I realize if I do it, then I'm going to be consistent. I bring in kind of these habits in for me that I'm going to be using more of this as I kind of, to create more assistance. So I wanted to kind of bring in that new practice and learning. So, and that's kind of when I mention Markdown, that's what it looks like. But we don't need to learn it. And the language of that our GPT understands is called Python, but we don't need to learn that either. Python language. Because that's the thing that I think often people get put off by, is like, I need to know programming, but we don't. We just need to know how to prompt it and say what we want kind of the outputs to be. So it's going a little bit like but it's always good to know these like shortcuts. Okay, what do I ask it so I can get the best result? I always I say, okay, why am I asking it this? Because it's going to be succinct, that the model understands that better, and I don't need to kind of read that stuff once I've done it. It's like it's in my knowledge base. I can always update it. I can still go in and update that information. And this is really powerful when we do prompting, because that's kind of where it gets really clear. So okay, so yeah, I can share. You know what I'll do? I'll share the other versions, the original version, so you have it, and then so you can see that. It makes it easier to kind of read through, I feel, if that helps. Yeah, okay. So we're going to be doing this. So once you fill that form out, so what you've both done now, you've got ChatGPT, you've got the paid version, which is you've uploaded, you've customized your own settings, so it's your environment, your space with your, that's kind of, you've got that. Now what we're going to be doing is I'm going to give you some steps on now creating. So I'm going to create your GPT. And as soon as you've done this, as in answer those questions there, we're going to be kind of testing it out. So you're going to be able to kind of share tomorrow how that's working. And so the plan is to have your GPT ready, or your assistants ready, for you then to say, I now know what to do, having kind of worked together, because that's kind of that's the purpose of like working together, right? Be here. So I'm going to go through my settings, and please let me know if you need me to kind of go back and show you. But once you go in and into your GPT, so you're going to see, let me go, I was updating this one. Okay, let me just go back so that I can show you what we do. So hopefully you can see my screen. When I've been talking about this previously, I've not really been able to see my face because the other stuff's been hidden there, right? So anyway, you can see this now. We're going to go into setting called Customize Chat GPT. And no, beg your pardon. We go into My GPTs, beg your pardon. We've done the customization. So we go into this bit here, and then what we then do is we click on create. And then once we go on to create, we go into configure. Okay, beg your pardon. We go into there and then we click on to configure. It was already kind of like on. And then we just fill in that information, text, you know, what that description is, what name you want to give it, what description, instructions that we put in there. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I'll give you the example that I was working on, and then we can upload the files there. And the file that I gave you that example of is the 3 that I uploaded there. So you can look at that worksheet. If you've got ones from before, then of course you can use that PDF. And if you've got transcripts as well, I've used transcripts of things like that you've had or you want to include, and you can leave these clicked. I've left these off, because I don't need it to do DALL-E generation, image generation. Say for your social media post, you do want DALL-E, which is image creator, you might leave that on. I found sometimes if I didn't have that on, I had to then go into the usual chat, come out of my assistant and then go into that. So it might be helpful to keep it on. And these other new actions are when you're linking it with APIs, but we don't need to kind of do that for now. And then you put create, save, and then you can test it. That's making sure that we do save that once we've gone into the settings. So here, if I'm going into the one I was looking at, because like in terms of the example, so I didn't make that jazzy. I didn't upload any images there. Could have done, but didn't. So if I want to go into editing, I could edit this anytime, right? So I can upload an image there if I wanted to. I gave it a name. I gave it very simple. This assistant contains all the knowledge related to my ideal client avatar and my business. And then I say what this assistant does. And I just simply said, you are a helpful AI assistant that is representative of my business. All the knowledge regarding my ideal client avatar, my bio, my products is contained in your knowledge base. Please provide any answers to the user, being me if I use it, from your local knowledge base exclusively. So that means just go into there. And I might actually to say, do not go anywhere else. If the information is not there, and if said that, if you cannot find it there, ask the user if they want you to look in more general knowledge base. That means look at the internet. So I don't want it to do that in the first instance because I want it to go into my knowledge base. But if there are gaps, but I need you to tell me when that information is missing. So I've used the same write in a professional but friendly manner or tone, using grade 13 writing level for output, maximize perplexity and burstiness. This is the language we've spoken about for, it understands that's the kind of human touch. Be empathetic and inspirational, output complete and concise. So don't give me short answers, like incomplete thoughts, basically. Then I've just uploaded the ideal client profile. That was only one document in that one. And as I said, you can add many more. So I want to keep things separate. I don't want to mix things up because then and then I can evoke them. So in my conversation, I can evoke my product I can evoke my like my voice. But imagine you've got different customers you're working with or different individuals, then you may have different assistants. Because Simba mentioned that you had different people, like you've got your work stuff and you might have, so you're going to keep different, you can organize those differently. And you, in your customization, you may not need to mention like the business. You mention who you are as an individual, professional, and so the voice, you know, how you show up as a person, a brand. But then the sections, the assistants, could be exclusive. So we had one person who was with us a couple of weeks ago, and she had clients. So she's creating social media content for clients. So she had different assistants for basically for each of those clients that she had that she can evoke and then create content. And it was working for her. She found that it was so helpful because then she wasn't mixing things up. So she was keeping it very distinct. That was their product, that's what they were doing, and she was able to organize it this way. But for business owners, you've got different, you know, ways of communicating from email, for your branding, you know, like your voice is going to be the same, of course, for social media posts. But your products are going to be different, right? Your packaging or so that's kind of how I've done created that. So now it's going to be over to you to kind of refine what the voice is, and then we're going to test this out tomorrow, and that's what we'll do. We'll do this together, so we'll see how that's working. Any questions?
Thank you, Bally. Mine is that you know what you shared with, I don't know about Colin, whether you have it, but I don't have access. So just having a kind of example, I don't know if it's possible.
Yes.
I know you've given us the worksheet.
Yes.
But what you sent to me, I don't know whether it just disappeared into space.
Oh.
That I can't access it.
Oh, the GPT.
Yeah, the GPT.
Ah, okay. Let's do that. Let's do that now so that you've got it. So I can it was the brand biz, wasn't it? The assistant, the one I did for here. Yes, I'm gonna do that now. And then you can save it, and then well, let's actually, that's a good point. So I'll do that immediately so that you have it. Okay. Yeah, and I'm gonna look into what like the best way to do this, because I know this has definitely been a conversation we've had before. And so I'll put it in there. Okay, so it's there now, and I'll to make sure that before we go that you definitely have that.
Can I get curious on, so I have it. It's saved in the left side where all the GPTs are. But I can't, like, all I can do is prompt it, right? So I'm just practicing or testing your assistant.
You're only able to prompt it, yes.
Okay. So what would be a great learning lesson within using your business AI assistant?
So
like, where would be an ideal space to practice or prompt there?
Yeah, so so with this example here, the one I shared, it would be you're testing out to see, once you create yours, what would be the output? What would you be able to get from doing yours? So the learning behind that is like, okay, when I have when I've created my own assistant, and I'll do a little bit on prompting, in fact, because I definitely want to touch on that tomorrow, is like what's the output? What's it giving me? Okay, so it could be that you might say, you know, if I prompted it, give me, show me the documents that you've got, right? And it will show me it won't give me the documents, but it will show me the names of the documents. But it might say, okay, so in this particular example, right? I'm just going to go in because I'll show you. Yeah, so it's kind of like a test to see, okay, somebody else has done it. So what, you know, it's, you know, what's this knowledge base? What's contained in that, if you like? It won't give you everything because you can ask it questions. It won't give you the information, it won't give you all that information, but you're prompting it to give you some of the answers. So I can let me just so if I was to go, so this is the one, and the documents in there. So if I go back into edit this, it's got 3 documents. And what I'll do is, I can't even like share these, so I have to go into my, so I can't just download these and share them. I've got to go into my own file. I've got to go into my, so I've got a brand style PDF. I've got a ideal client, and I've got my brand voice PDF as well. And this one's about 48 pages, if I remember correctly. This is a really lengthy document, in fact, one of them here. But yeah, I can give you the, you know, I can share those, and then of course I can upload, and I've kept these, I haven't ticked these. But yeah, I mean, then if I'm testing it, I can ask it kind of questions like we've covered today, for example, like the voice, right? Like who's our ideal client? Like what's a brand? Who just, you know, those would be quite help questions if we were to do that. But I use it to create content. Like I use it, say I want to create a social media post, for example, I'll have that assistance. So I will say, write a topic, or I say, I want to create a post on this topic. And then I'm using the assistant in the chat. So I evoke it in my conversation. Then when I go at, and then I evoke it in the conversation starter. Hope that was helpful.
It's a starting point, yes. I didn't know if we were using it to see the background settings, which is what I had mentioned earlier, is that I couldn't see any settings. But we're kind of using it to test. And then I kind of gathered that we could also compare to how yours is.
Yes, yes.
And to how ours is trained in almost.
Absolutely. I don't know if I've frozen. I think I might have frozen. Yeah, we can definitely.
See.
Sorry, Clean.
I've been putting more in.
I think it might be me.
That I didn't know exactly how to use it, because the same thing, it just kind of gives the icon. And
yeah, that's all.
Yeah, so I had prompted that earlier and was asking. That's why I didn't know how we were supposed to use it, because I couldn't see the settings, or I couldn't see if we were supposed to go in and see how it was configured. But I guess that's not available, and I guess we're just prompting it. I don't know exactly where the.
Okay.
But yeah, that's what I think. So the prompting, though, are we prompting to compare, like compare trained assistants? Are we prompting to try and pull out and extract some of that information?
You're going to be comparing, because it will.
Okay.
You could, I mean, yeah, you'll just be comparing. I mean, it won't give you, because it's personal and its own.
Okay. Yeah.
Won't be available. And the thing is, the danger is, if somebody can go and configure that, will be, I mean, it will just go against data protection. So yeah, it's just a link that you can have a look. It was just an example, basically, to share, to say, look, this is something that you're able to do. And then, yeah, 100%, we can compare it. We can do that. And we can do a little test run to see how it compares and how it evaluates against kind of like, kind of the performance. Like I've created something that checks the performance of like how well they do.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. I know there's a lot of information.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm excited to see how it goes in terms of like you having your assistant and so tomorrow you'll have that assistant, so we'll be looking at that and saying, okay, how did it do, what's missing in it, how's it prompt, so we can share it and we can even see, we can we can test it out and say, look, this is what I have and this is what I've put in there, and so you're able to kind of use it and evoke it in conversations and create social media posts. That's kind of what we mentioned that you'd like to be starting and doing more of.
Yeah. Thank you.
Curiosity. And sorry, this probably doesn't need to be recorded, but this is more on, I noticed you have a GPT or an assistant for Core 4, and I think you had one for PCU.
Yeah.
And you mentioned today, like identifying each product or each particular thing. So I guess I'm unsure of how that GPT is being utilized for Core 4 or supporting you. Like, I guess I don't even know what it could do to, I'm still learning and gaining knowledge on how a GPT can serve us in supporting like coursework.
Yeah. So it's an excellent question, because what I did was when I'm doing that training, Simbo, so we're doing like the coaching kind of training. So what I've done is when we've created content, when I've created content or I've been taught something, I've saved it and I've uploaded it on there. So if I ever want to kind of find out about a coaching tool, I don't need to go through all my files. That's basically what I use it for. So it's really quick. And it's like, oh, what was that coaching tool? So I grab it for myself. So it's my learning, kind of like it helps me and I never have to find it. So it's really powerful, and it captures data which I can then just use for myself. Like, oh, what was that tool? Oh, I've got it in my knowledge base. I don't like, it's not my head because I don't remember it. My memory is not as good as my GPT, so I just use that.
So you uploading then like the presentations or recordings? Like
You can
how does that?
I've done recordings. I haven't done presentations. You can upload presentation slides as well if you want to do that. But I've not done that. I've just put like the transcripts. So if we've had a tool, I will upload it. And so
the
it helps
transcript.
me. Yeah,
okay.
I can upload transcripts as they are. And I can tidy them up. I can get them in a format and put them in there. So if I want, like, okay, I want to help a client, I've got that tool. Like, oh, they're having problems with this. Okay, I'll use this tool because that will help them. I'm not going to remember it. I'll just go, okay, go into my assistant. That's my data bank, basically.
And are you grabbing that transcript? Sorry, I'm learning one deeper step. Are you grabbing that from the chat, or are you doing an AI assistant to note take and transcribe during those?
So some of
I
them,
know they have those.
yeah, you can do it like this on Mac. There's something called Mac Whisper. I started using something called Mac Whisper on Mac, and I got the paid version. I don't use that as much, so that I can use transcripts and it records so it doesn't show up the AI tool. Sometimes it's like I don't do that. Or other times I just have dictator, and I allow it to dictate and then I might save it. And then I will tidy that up and then I can upload it. I haven't uploaded it for a few weeks now, but I try and do that. So it's really helpful. So if you're having a conversation or you've got a meeting, you've got meeting notes, you could save those and it could just be for your personal use. It's all private, by the way. And then you can use it and as a remember, okay, we spoke about this and so it's really helpful because you can say there's it's a huge memory bank as well.
I'm learning so much about the tools that can be utilized and explored. So thank you for opening up a whole new kind of doorway for future use.
Yeah,
Thank
you're welcome.
you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, it's exciting. It's like, yeah, I'm also thinking of shortcuts. and saving time for myself. I'm thinking initially it might take time, but I know in the long run it will be so much easier because I don't need to kind of save and remember where things are. Anyway, so and it helps if you're giving it on to someone else to pick up, and in turn they can use that. But remember, they can only use that one. They can't go into your settings because you may, you can share, you can have a team, but I personally would like, you just want to be mindful of what goes into that knowledge base and how it's updated. Policy, you might change it. Frameworks, brilliant. This is amazing for frameworks, by the way. If you've got any frameworks, it's so powerful.
And that's when you're talking about frameworks, that's in the upload section. You're feeding it, or are you asking them to construct frameworks based on the knowledge?
Yeah, I can get it to construct frameworks, but if I've got existing frameworks, we have so many in kind of like what we're doing, or even templates, I can then upload that. I can keep those separate, or I can put them in a system. I can actually upload this in the conversation starter, because remember, you've got this file where you can upload files. You can actually upload a whole document and use it there. So, so that's something I can show you, which is, it's really quite clean space, but there's so much within that space we can do.
Well, thank you. I know our time is probably running a little bit, but I appreciate all that information.
Yeah, thank you.
You're
I think it
welcome.
would be useful to see something in action, from what you're saying. It seems huge. Like I'm running at how many miles per hour?
Yeah, we'll do that tomorrow. Let's do that tomorrow.
Okay.
And I think some of the dictate, if you can just dictate and things like that are really cool.
Yeah.
That's really good too. So yeah, I mean it's incredible. It's such a time saver. But like I said initially, like doing these questions, it'll be like, oh, but once you have it, right? It's there. And that's where the magic is, as we know.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for sharing any and all of those documents so that I can get them, I guess, answered and uploaded. I appreciate that, Bailey.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Speak to you later on. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye, ladies. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.